Hey y'all, greetings from Middle Tennessee. Hope y'all have had a good weekend and have got all your shopping done. And you can spend all your time painting for the rest of the season. I am so behind and I apologize because I do not like to make anybody have to wait for me to do something, but sometimes life just gets in the way and you deal with it. We're going to be painting this ornament. It's 7.5 inches by 7 inches. It's a good size. It could go in the middle of a wreath, or it could hang from a knob or a dresser drawer, just someplace that you might need a little Christmas cheer. Someone told me the other day that they had no idea what kind of paints to get when they started to paint our patterns. And I never really thought about it because I think that everybody knows what they're doing by now, but there's so many out there that are still trying to learn, and we need to help them all we can. So I use Americana acrylic paints. I am a deco art helping artist, but I have been using these for years, long before I was ever a helping artist. But I'm so thankful to be a part of the family. Then to transfer stuff, I use Master's Touch graphite paper. It comes from Hobby Lobby. I really like this. It's strong enough to see, but yet you can erase it fairly easily, and I really like it. And if you're using graphite paper, there's a shiny side and a dull side. The shiny side goes down, and you place it between your surface and your pattern. I use either a stylus, and this is what a stylus is, in case you don't know, or a mechanical pencil. I've always joked that I'm going to put my eye out one of these days by the lead flying away, but this is one of the handiest tools, I think, that you can use for transferring patterns and just to mark. If you create patterns, it's a really good pencil to have. So I might have to pull out the dreaded hair dryer, but I hope not. Tonight we're going to make the surface using a sponge, if I can find it. This is a sea sponge, and I've dampened it. You can see that a little water will come out if I squeeze it really hard, but it's really not very damp. I start by base coating the surface with Midnight Blue. This Midnight Blue is really close to Prussian blue, and it's not deep Midnight Blue. It's got more of a true blue in it, and the Midnight Blue seems to be dull and have more of a grayish tone. I've just started using this recently, and I really like it. I base coat the front and the back. Y'all, base coat your backs. Finish your backs. Don't leave them blank. Make them look professional. And once I've base coated both, I sand it. What do I use to sand? I use just leftover pieces of sandpaper from my rotary sander. I mean, why not use them? Normally, I would go ahead and base coat this with another coat, but since we're going to do different backgrounds, I just left it. First, we're going to wash some blue. I've got turquoise blue. We're going to wash some of that onto the ornament. Whoa, I put that right in another color. Not that it'd really matter, I don't guess, but it's not what I wanted. When I base coat, if it's just a plain surface, I don't use my best brushes to do that because it'll ruin them really fast. I use old brushes, and you can see this one has been stained. This blue stains your brushes really bad. So I'm going to thin the turquoise blue and wash it on. I'm going to use my sponge. I want it to be a textured sponge so that I can pull off some fun stuff. This is a background, going to be a sky, so this works just fine. And wash some more. The turquoise on there. Turquoise in the back crunching his water bottles. That's how he earns his living. That's his chore. He has to take the tops off the bottles and crunch them for me. And then I've got this square 4-inch wooden canvas. I love these things. I paint on these all the time. Let's see if I can go thin it down. Isn't that cool? Need a little more paint here. I'll scrub this one a little because I want some of that. I got too much. And I might have enough paint to just dab it on there. And I do. Sorry, I'm holding my brush with my teeth, which is a bad habit of mine. So I got kind of muffled there. Now that we've done that, let's add some magenta on there. I like this color. If you don't have magenta, you can use royal fuchsia or maybe a lavender or some other purple that you've got. Yeah, stuff's falling. So many times it doesn't matter that you have the exact same colors that we call for, but I also know that it's nice to have what they call for. And I'm just going to put a few little streaks through here and do the same thing. Dab it up. I love how that purple just adds. It just adds a little something to it. I'm just going to do the top this time and not waste your time doing the sides because it's the same thing. And just keep taking away the paint till you get it like you like it. Then we're going to use a little bit of orchid. I'm not going to use as much of this. When I did the first one, it really will overpower. This is really wet still, but I'm going to try it. It kind of looks like clouds going by. And if it's not picking up enough of the color, kind of rub it a little more. I like it. And then if you want to, if you've got too many colors that you don't like, go back over it with your midnight blue again. That's really cool. So now we're going to add stars up in the sky. This is a stencil from Plum Purdy. If you've been in the Laurie Spelt's 12 Days of Christmas, the 2018 batch had a little spot of dots. You could use that if you don't have this. Tracy Morrow has another stencil with lots of little dots. I love her. I think they're M Square stencils. Love them. But if you don't have a stencil, don't think you have to go out and run and buy one. You can just do it with the stylus or with a paintbrush. Thin your paint, because you really don't want to have big lumps of dots, since we're going to put the dots all over. Let's try get out some titanium white. I wonder why we call the black lamp black instead of ebony black. And we call the white titanium instead of snow. Isn't that kind of weird? Things that make you go, Okay. You work your paint into your bristles. If it's shiny, you've got too much. But it really is not going to matter on this, because we're going to put dots on top of dots. I want to look like the stars in the sky. And these little bitty holes are hard to get the paint through, so sometimes you have to do it 2 or 3 times and keep trying. It's hard to find where the edges are. There we go. It's working. And don't worry if some are brighter than the others. It doesn't matter. Let's move it, and some will be on top. But that's what it is. Stars are on top of each other. Isn't that cool? I think I'm going to stop there because I like that. These little ones that I'm making can be used to make ornaments from the pattern that I'm giving you this time. And this would be a really good way to finish your back too. I like to finish the backs of my stuff. It takes it up a notch. So you can, like I said, take part of the pattern, resize it, and put it on these blocks or these round circles for ornaments. Always try to think of new ways you can use your patterns. So I've already transferred this, and I'm going to start with the lettering. I often start with lettering because if I totally screw up, it's not so hard to just take it and try again. It's very important that you have a nice liner. I like the 18-aught. This time I'm using the King Art Original Gold Premium 18-aught. So far, this has been a good liner. We'll see. But you wet your brush and get that water off the ferrule. And thin your paint just a little, not too thin. And a lot of times, this paint is thin enough that you don't really need to thin it much more. And you load it up. And when you're writing, think of it as just lining instead of writing, because I think it makes it easier and takes a little bit of stress off. I try, to keep my brush up straight. Yeah, it doesn't always work. I'm going to try to keep my line as even as possible, making sure that I don't add too much pressure. Just keep going. I find it easier to pull the brush toward me. And I know people laugh when I say this, but if you can try not to breathe when you're lining, it keeps your hand from getting shaky, and you can keep a better line. I know, sounds silly, but it works. Don't worry so much about your writing being perfect either. If you look through things, you'll notice that handwriting, just plain old handwriting, cursive handwriting, is very popular. And so if you can't do what they call the faux style, don't worry about it. It's what makes it unique and makes it yours. I think it's very important to put yourself into your patterns that you're painting. We're here to design and to guide you, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with putting a little of yourself into it and making it yours. This is one of my favorite Christmas songs. I used to play the piano at church, and I loved when we would sing Silent Night, because you can have fun playing on those keys with this song. Okay, there you go. So now once we've got that done, we're going to come back and we're going to add a thicker line to each downstroke. I probably should take that off, but why make things easier? So you kind of come in, and my paint is way too thin because you can tell that it's not opaque anymore. It's gonna have to come back and add another coat to that. Okay. It does not matter which side you add it on. I try to add it where I've got a little more space. Sometimes I add the dots with the stylus, but we're going to live on the dangerous side and just do it with the brush tonight. And I try to keep it a smooth transition. That was not smooth. I think this is really going to need a second coat. I don't know if y'all can hear it or not, but charcoal is snoring. He's having a silent night. I kind of squared off at the top and the bottom. Kind of went out. I needed to cover the graphite on that anyway, so that worked out okay. This really is going to need a second coat probably, because you can see it's not very opaque, but that's okay. And that's why a lot of times I don't thin the paint, because it makes it too thin. It becomes transparent. And this liner brush is holding up really nice. I think I might have found a winner for a change. I have a hard time finding good liner brushes. You think you've got a good one and the next one you buy is horrible. Same brand. But I guess if I was just going to have 18 little hairs in a brush, it probably would be hard to get them consistent. Really got those too close together. But that's okay. That just lets somebody know that it's handmade and not machine perfect. Sometimes we get so stressed out trying to make something look perfect. And when you do that, it just makes it look like it's made in China. And if you're painting in China, then that's a good thing. There again, I've got a little of that graphite showing, so I'm going to try to straighten that up a little bit. And there's that for the first coat. Like I said, I really think it's going to need a second coat, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. You've got the gist. Since this is a dark background, I think I'm going to undercoat everything with bleached sand, if I can find it. That's antique white. Nah. Maybe that's it. Okie dokie. When I base coat things, I have no consistency whatsoever. Sometimes I use a flat to base. Sometimes I use a round. Just depends on what it is. I use number 2s and number 4s of things probably more than anything. Let's see. Got this number 4 cheapo flat. Let's start with that and see how things go. And I'm not going to take time to do all of this because you pretty much know. Now see, this is too big for this and I've already made a mess. And I am going to switch to a round, I do believe. Try to keep stuff as smooth as I can when I'm base coating. I'm a choppy painter, so I make usually choppy lines, but I come back and smooth it out. That's how I float too. I'm just a choppy girl. I really am not enjoying this brush. You can see that I put the dots all over this surface, and that's why I said if you add them with your brush or a stylus, you want to try to keep them flat, and if not, you're going to have raised lumps underneath your pattern. That's fine. It won't hurt anything. It's just might not be what you want. I am not doing that anymore. Let's go with this. I think we've got my number 2. I love my number 2 round. I cannot paint without a number 2 round. I'm going to jump around here to really need something bigger than the number 2 here, but it'll be okay. But you can see going over those dots that were stenciled on, they're flat, and doesn't matter. And that way you don't have to figure out where your design is, so you will not have dots underneath it. This way it doesn't matter. Okay, you get the idea of what I'm doing. I skip around. If I've got areas that I want to keep separated, I will add another color in there with my brush. This is white. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be putting straw right over that. But I'll put a different color to keep my section separated so that I don't have to go back and add my lines again. I guess I'm a lazy painter. I think I'm pretty smart though. My great aunt always said, never stand up for what you can do sitting down, and never sit down for what you can do lying down. And I thought, well, that's pretty wise. Conserve your energy. We're in the South, and we have lots of funny sayings. Sometimes I forget what they are. I can't remember if Daddy said there's a sole for every old shoe or an old shoe for every old sole. I don't know. But he used to say that about people that you might wonder how or why they got married. I definitely don't understand people who fall in love. You can tell I'm single. Okay, I think I'm going to stop for now and finish this off camera because you understand what I'm doing. If the white doesn't separate this from the bleach sand enough for you, add a little gray or some other color that you would normally use in painting it. Okie doke. Be back in a few minutes.